Here are a few of the really good resources to gather information on dietary supplements. The National Institute of Health has an Office of Dietary Supplements, which is an excellent resource to get information on what are supplements, what are vitamins and minerals, what do they do, how do they function in the body, and then some more information specifically on supplementation. PubMed is a resource for research on supplements as well as other health and nutrition research. Consumer Lab is a independent organization that tests vitamins and minerals that are given to them by manufacturers. So they evaluate the not the effectiveness of a supplement, but does the supplement contain what it says it does, and does it contain any other contaminants? And so that's a good independent resource to gather information on specific brands of supplements. Dietary supplement regulation. There was the Supplement Health and Education Act was created in 1994, determining that dietary supplements, for one, are considered in the food category. They're not considered drugs. Prior to 1994, anything that was sold was considered generally recognized as safe. So it did not go back and look at anything that was already being sold prior to 1994. The responsibility is placed on the manufacturer to be in compliance with regulation. So the FDA, bears the burden of proof that whether it's unsafe or adulterated. So if it's altered in some way, the manufacturer is, they're kind of held to their own responsibility to make sure they're doing it right, and the FDA has to go in and prove them wrong if that's happening. Regulated by the FDA is safety, identity, and health claims. The FTC regulates health claims in advertising, and then the Natural Products Association is an industry regulation and advocacy organization. Good manufacturing procedures, or GMP, are measures of the manufacturing facilities, the design and construction of those plants, of maintenance and cleaning procedures throughout the process of manufacturing, that operations are, processes are happening in a safe and effective way, that there's quality control, that they're testing products so that they're meeting the claims that they're making on the label. The manufacturing does look at consumer complaints as well. So good manufacturing procedures is looking at, are there complaints that have been against this supplement, and maintenance of records around complaints as well as manufacturing and testing. Research shows that almost 70% of companies that have been audited are in non-compliance with these good manufacturing procedures. That things don't necessarily contain the ingredients that it says it does. It doesn't necessarily contain it in the quantity that it says, that it may contain contaminants, and it may contain banned ingredients or pharmaceuticals, which can happen because things are manufactured in the same facilities as pharmaceutical drugs. So it's a little concerning that many, many companies are not necessarily in compliance with GMPs. Why it is so important that when choosing supplements, we're looking at supplements that are manufactured by companies that are meeting these GMP standards. So why does it happen? Why are so many companies not in non-compliance? For one, because they're not testing appropriately. They are not keeping adequate records of testing, and because there can be a lot of contaminants. And it may be, again, because of the way that it's manufactured and the facility that it is, that it can have some cross-contamination with other products. There are these other organizations that are evaluating this: Consumer Lab, the USP Dietary Supplement Verification Program, and the Natural Products Association. Some of the supplements that tend to be greatest risk are weight loss supplements, ergogenic aids, supplements for sexual dysfunction, and those that contain multiple ingredients as well as herbal supplements. There is a way to report adverse events. This FDA.gov MedWatch site is an opportunity for consumers to go and say that I had this negative consequence happen as a result of consuming this supplement. It is very important that individuals do that, because that is the only way that the government can always be checking up and making sure that manufacturers are not producing unsafe supplements. they don't have the resources to be checking up on all of these companies, but having this way of people reporting events is they're a great resource to be able to follow up and say, okay, we're seeing consistently this product is having a lot of adverse events and we need to pursue that and find out what's going on. It is very difficult to prove harm. There are very few supplements that have been banned to date. Most are still available on the internet. But there are some ways that we can stay safe. Buying good brands. It is really important to have supplements that are testing every batch, not skip batch testing. Supplement is designed by a scientist, by a medical doctor, avoiding obscure brands, internet sales, looking for some of the certifications like the USP, being aware of, again, those most risky supplements like the weight loss, the ergogenic aids, using caution with dosing, so we're not taking large quantities of a supplement, and being particularly cautious with the children and elderly population. I also want to add, though, that the risk of supplements is relatively low. There are these particular supplements that we do have to be careful about, and I find it's very important to understand manufacturing practices, particularly that testing of batches, every single batch. But in comparison to pharmaceuticals, the adverse events that have happened with supplements throughout history is very low. It tends to be still a low risk market, but it's a multi-billion-dollar market. There's lots of manufacturers out there, and you can be safe and make the right choices, but you do have to do the research and invest in good quality supplements. Um, Going back to why people are choosing supplements, one of the big reasons people choose is based on price. And the companies that can sell cheap aren't necessarily following the general good manufacturing processes, testing every batch, doing the things that we want to see happen.